drmartypets.com/Tom, drmartypets.com/THOM, or text.
I'm Amy Goodman. At least 17 Palestinians, including an 11-month-old baby, were killed today in Gaza's Nuseirat camp as Israel once again attacked a school-turned-shelter in central Deir al-Balah. In northern Gaza, Al Jazeera reports many civil defense rescue workers are refusing Israeli orders to evacuate, facing arrest and attacks as they continue their rescue missions, even as their capacity has been nearly wiped out by Israel's assault. Israel's siege on northern Gaza, now in its 20th day, has killed over 770 Palestinians. This is a displaced Palestinian woman who fled Beit Lahia.
I fled the intense bombardment in Beit Lahia. Martyrs and remains were all scattered on the ground. We do not know where to go. Truly, we don't know what state we have reached. We cannot take it anymore. We are being exterminated in Gaza. We are dying, and no one is standing beside us, nor is anyone able to solve our issue. We are innocent. We have nothing to do with everything that has happened. We are lost between a war and an extermination.
Al Jazeera has blasted Israel's dangerous escalation of its attack against the news network after the Israeli military claims 6 of its journalists are members of Hamas and Palestinian Islamic Jihad. Al Jazeera responded, quote, "These fabricated accusations are a blatant attempt to silence the few remaining journalists in the region, thereby obscuring the harsh realities of the war from audiences worldwide," they said. We'll speak with the head of the Committee to Protect Journalists later in the broadcast. Israel's continuing its assault on Lebanon, carrying out 17 attacks on Beirut's southern suburbs overnight, leveling at least 6 buildings. One strike destroyed the offices of the Lebanese news station Al Mayadeen. Israel also killed 3 Lebanese soldiers in a separate strike. Meanwhile, health authorities are warning of a possible cholera outbreak among Lebanese children amidst mass displacement, attacks on the health system, and lack of clean water and food. The 400,000 displaced children in Lebanon are also at risk of other highly transmissible diseases like hepatitis A and measles. In France, President Emmanuel Macron pledged a €100 million aid package for Lebanon as he opened a conference in Paris to rally support for Lebanon and reiterate calls for a ceasefire. We'll go to Beirut for the latest after headlines. Here in the United States, Jewish students across the country say college administrators have cracked down on their Gaza solidarity sukkahs, which have been set up over the past week to mark the holiday of Sukkot. In some cases, schools have destroyed the sukkah huts. Jewish Voice for Peace said in a statement, quote, "These universities desecrate these students' Jewish practice because their faith is intertwined with their solidarity with the Palestinian people. A university has no right to dictate what types of Jewish practice are legitimate," they said. Here in New York City, faith leaders and other activists disrupted a city council meeting Wednesday to demand council members take up a vote on a Gaza ceasefire resolution. Protesters cried out, "City Council, you can't hide, no more bombs for genocide," as they held up their hands covered in red paint while being forcibly removed by security. Over 100 city councils across the United States have passed ceasefire resolutions. In Spain, over 300 academics, entertainers, artists, including the directors Pedro Almodóvar and Isabel Coixet, have signed on to a letter calling on Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sánchez to enact a full arms embargo against Israel, writing, quote, "As long as Spain maintains military relations with Israel, it will continue to be complicit in this massacre," unquote. Sanchez has said Spain halted its weapons trade with Israel since October of last year, but investigations have revealed some military exports have still gone ahead. Turkey's military launched dozens of airstrikes across northern Iraq and Syria Wednesday in what the Turkish Defense Ministry said were attacks on positions held by the Kurdish PKK militia. The strikes came hours after officials in Ankara blamed the PKK for setting off explosives at the state-run aerospace company TUSAS, then opening fire, killing at least 5 people and injuring 22 others. No group has claimed responsibility. Aid agencies in eastern Chad are warning of deteriorating conditions in overcrowded camps for more than 500,000 Sudanese refugees who fled fighting between rival military factions since the outbreak of war in April 2023. The conflict has uprooted more than 11 million people across Sudan, with 26 million facing severe food insecurity. About 25,000 refugees from Sudan crossed into Chad in the first week of October alone. Those settling in refugee camps face poor living conditions, severe cuts to food rations, and few job prospects. Meanwhile, the UN says Sudan's warring factions continue to...
Mary had a little man.
The fault. We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon.
I have a dream today.
Change has come to America.
Believe me.
Help is on the way.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show.
Turn up your mind.
Oh, look, everybody, a town hall where there's no dancing and no Donald Trump.
For weeks, you have been calling Donald Trump unstable, unhinged. You've called him dangerous. You've quoted General Milley recently, who called him a fascist. Today, you quoted General Kelly, who said that Trump repeatedly praised Hitler. Yeah. But there are tens of millions of Americans right now who have heard all those things, and they don't buy it, or even if they do, they're still going to vote for Donald Trump. He's arguably more popular now than ever. You have 13 days to go. What do you say to those voters to convince them? Because some of them are in this room.
Sure, and I thank you all for taking the time to be here. And you could be doing a number of other things with your time. So this really is proof that we love our country. People are engaged, Anderson, and really want to talk about the issues. And so the issue that you raise, yes, I do believe that Donald Trump is unstable, increasingly unstable, and unfit to serve. And I don't necessarily think that everyone has heard what you and I have heard repeatedly, which is the people who know Donald Trump best, the people who worked with him in the White House, in the Situation Room, in the Oval Office, all Republicans, by the way, who served in his administration, his former chief of staff, his national security advisor, former secretaries of defense, and his vice president have all called him unfit and dangerous. They have said explicitly he has contempt for the Constitution of the United States. They have said he should never again serve as president of the United States. We know that is why Mike Pence is not running with him again, why the job was empty. And then today we learned that John Kelly, a 4-star Marine general, who was his longest-serving chief of staff, gave an interview recently in the last 2 weeks of this election, talking about how dangerous Donald Trump is. And I think one has to think about, why would someone who served with him, who is not political, a 4-star Marine general, why is he telling the American people now? And frankly, I think of it as he's just putting out a 911 call to the American people. Understand what could happen if Donald Trump were back in the White House. And this time, we must take very seriously those folks who knew him best and who were career people are not going to be there to hold him back.
And you know what else, everybody? You know what else? There's presidential immunity that is, in addition to all of what she just said there, in play as well. That if Donald Trump, in his official capacity as the president of the United States, decides that you are the enemy within, or I am the enemy within, or she's the enemy within, I think Tucker Carlson thinks the proper punishment for her being the enemy is a spanking. Did anybody see any of this? So this is crazy. But last night there was a town hall, which I kept on threatening to tell you about, and I kept on, trying to not be overwhelmed by all the news that was sitting on my desk because we had technical issues Monday and Tuesday. And by the way, if you did help us out yesterday, if you don't, thank you. That was so cool of you. That was just so kind. That was so necessary for us. And we see you, hear you, and we thank you. However, I forgot to tell you that there was a town hall. And the reason why the town hall was just Kamala Harris. It was supposed to be a town hall featuring Kamala Harris and the Donald. Yes, the two of them were supposed to be there, but he canceled that too. He didn't want to debate her on Fox or CNN, who also had a debate scheduled for the two of them. He canceled that. He's canceling everything except for uber-friendly audiences in a rally situation. You know, the last town hall he had, we all remember, he was rocking out to Ave Maria. I don't know. Dude, that is some strange, unstable behavior. But okay, so there was that. And then he had this other rally the other day where we didn't even talk about this, but it is so disgusting what he talks about anymore. He was infatuated with Arnold Palmer's shower appearance in the shower room after games. I don't know. He's like obsessed with, size does matter. And Donald Trump is obsessed with Arnold Palmer's giant club. I don't know. And it was like, what the heck? His own family has weighed in. His daughter said, listen, what am I going to say? Really, what am I going to say? It's disrespectful. He's a weird dude. You know what I mean? Like, what am I going to say? But this is what he, uses to entertain his friendly audiences now, and he will not answer any questions from audience members that aren't in the tank for him. So last night, Kamala Harris showed up and flew solo, and she did great. I mean, it was a phenomenal thing. She was like feeling it. You could feel her because she was feeling what she was, telling, answering questions for people who have serious problems and want answers from serious people. And as we all know, Donald Trump is not a serious person. Anybody who talks about Arnold Palmer's, penis, instead of taking questions from an audience, or anybody that, sways back and forth to, Lee Greenwood or to, Ave Maria or to, I don't know. I thought it was weird when Al Gore did the Macarena, but this is like beyond. Okay, this is off the charts, crazy back crap stuff. Is not a serious person. The people that showed up last night, one woman was a widow, and she really hadn't heard much about Kamala Harris's economic plan. She wanted to know everything about it. She believed this woman was, and poor Kamala, this is the problem, okay? When you talk to people who have fallen prey to bullcrap, the woman stood up and said she was a widow. She had 2 kids. She was very, very, very much aware of what things cost and prices and blah, blah, blah. But she was much more interested in Kamala Harris's tax plan because she knew that the tax system in the United States is such that the more you make, the more you're taxed. And she was afraid that the more she made, the more she'd be taxed. And Kamala had to explain to her that's not really the case in the United States, okay? You have people that find all kinds of loopholes in our tax code that end up paying nothing. You find people that pay themselves through pass-throughs that pay absolutely nothing. You find people who are making $1 billion or $1 million or $50 million, and they end up paying less than you do. There's a problem in the tax, and the woman was like kind of having none of it. She just was like, no, that's not what and at the end, I saw Kamala Harris go up to her, went to her to speak to her with her after the event. And then after the event, we had to have the focus group, the now mandatory focus group. Did she change anybody's mind? Because the crowd, the audience was supposedly a pre-screened crowd of undecided voters less than 2 weeks before an election that will change the trajectory of this here democracy, this representative republic. And they're still undecided. I mean, it was bizarre. I mean, she's like, I'm having trouble finding it. Really? Google it, okay? Because I have no trouble finding it. I don't know what her problem was. And that's why, it was like kind of hinky, the whole thing, to tell me. But they were undecided voters. They were supposedly Republicans, Democrats, and independents. And at the debrief, okay, after the thing, this woman still didn't have her mind made up. She still didn't. She said she liked Kamala personally. She thought she was wonderful. She thought she was gracious. She thought she was brilliant. She thought she was kind. You know, like qualities you would want for the leader of the free world. You know what I mean? As opposed to that crap crazy and there's an enemy within that I need to use the military to kill. Kill. Oh, and by the way, we need to purge people. We should have one night where it's like totally bloody and totally brutal and everybody gets to, harm whoever they don't like. So you can really, get at the libs or something. I don't know, the purge. She saw the purge. And she still couldn't make up her mind, like, between the two. I'm sorry, but that's a mental illness at that point, okay? That is not being a careful voter, wanting to screen the plan. That's a mental illness. That's just being a contrarian for the sake of being a contrarian and getting some attention focused upon ye from CNN. It was ugly for me.
Clear for takeoff. Randi Rhodes.
I'm Rick Smith, and this is Labor History in 2. On this day in labor history, the year was 1989. At 1:05 in the afternoon, a massive explosion rocked the town of Pasadena, Texas, near Houston. The explosion was so large it registered a 3.5 on the Richter scale. The disaster took place at the Phillips Petroleum Company's Houston Chemical Complex. The Pasadena facility produces plastics. The fire started when highly flammable gas was released from an improperly connected valve. 23 workers were killed. More than 300 more were injured. The Houston Chronicle described the devastating impact of the explosion, writing, "Entire buildings vanished as a huge black smoke plume billowed skyward in an almost apocalyptic vision. Homes as far as 8 miles away were damaged." After the explosion, the company rebuilt its facilities. A year after the disaster, Tom Gentry, president of the Oil, Chemical, and Atomic Workers Local 4-227, thought the company could do more to improve workplace safety. He told a Chronicle reporter, "The company still uses outside contractors with less safety training, and workers become tired because of bare-bones staffing." At the time of the explosion, there were 905 company workers and an additional 600 contracted employees who worked at the facilities. OSHA found multiple safety violations. The company eventually came to an agreement with OSHA and paid a $4 million fine. In 1999, another explosion killed 2 workers at the Pasadena facility. The next year, yet another explosion killed 1 worker and injured 71. The company continued to hire contracted employees. After the third explosion in 11 years, Joe Campbell, secretary-treasurer of the paper Allied Industrial, Chemical, and Energy Workers International, said the company continued to hire contractors who have little or no experience.
The Bob Cesca Show.
Bob Cesca. Can you imagine? Let's just stop for a second and think about what November could bring for all of us. Kamala Harris could win this election. Imagine how satisfying that's going to be to see Donald Trump lose again and to see Kamala Harris win.
Guys, let's not. In the car today, actually, before I got back to the house to come on the show, and I was just thinking about the election night 2016 and the creeping horror.
Yeah.
And the, oh God. And I just...
Oh, no. When Russ Feingold lost in Wisconsin, I looked at the TV at Stephanie's house. I was like, we're done.
Yeah, it was a horrible, horrible night, and we don't want to repeat that again. And so
No.
I was in the middle of manifesting an awesome November here. Just I was in a happy place.
Okay, sorry. Go, Bob, go.
So Donald Trump loses again. Kamala Harris wins, maybe even picking up Florida and states like that. Ohio, I think, is on the table. And then Donald Trump gets sentenced by Judge Merchan later in the month. Thanksgiving's in the mix there, too. Get a little bit of time off. Just imagine that. If you're feeling stressed out, just think about that. Manifest that. Make that happen. Let's just do whatever we have to do.
Like you need to walk outside, spin around, spit, no balloons.
Yeah, I'm bringing down the wrath of the whatever from high atop the thing. I know it. But you know what? I can't do this anymore. The stress is just killing me. I'm doom scrolling. I'm freaked out about maybe having to flee the country when they start arresting people. I would much rather focus on ways we can win, ways we can establish the stakes of this election, convince the last remaining undecided voters to make the right choice in all of this, and to just be positive and optimistic about things.
Bob Cesca.
It's the Bob Cesca Show. New episodes every Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, everywhere you get your podcasts, and at bobcescashow.com.
All things Randy at randyrhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
All right, here she is talking to that said woman, okay?
Well,
And
I'll
this
just
is
tell you
after.
what I'm hearing from people who I have been talking to, and that is that if her goal was to close the deal, they're not sure she did that. And, you know, some people have asked, is she being held to a different standard? Maybe.
Maybe.
But that's maybe the world that she's living in.
She's living in that world. Dana, listen, Van Jones actually nailed it, okay? This is just, obvious to anybody who's watching this, okay?
Look, Kamala Harris and Donald Trump are not taking the same exam.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think it bothers people.
It does.
They're not taking the same exam.
No.
He gets to be lawless.
Yes.
She has to be flawless.
Yes.
That's what's unfair.
Well, that
That's
was
what's
good.
unfair. That's what's unfair tonight. That's what's unfair tonight. They're not taking the same exam. Look, she has policies. She may not articulate them perfectly every time. She may not put the stories in the right places, but she's fighting for actual ideas that will help real people. And he's talking about people's penises. And so they are not taking the same exam, and that's pissing people off. It's pissing me off.
Well, and I'm also
It's
old
making
enough
you
to
angry.
remember that if
Okay.
your fiscal plans were actually said to bankrupt the Social Security Trust Fund in sooner years, Donald Trump's, that would be a campaign-destroying issue. But we just gloss over things with Donald Trump.
Yes, and that is the absolute unvarnished truth. And they know it over there at the CNN. They know. I mean, that's Alyssa Farah. Alyssa Farah worked in the Trump White House. She sees the way the media, treats him with kid gloves. This felon, this guy. There's a list today. Okay, I think Mark Jacobs at Midas Touch put it together. I stuck it in the homework. It's 200 reasons for you to vote against Donald Trump. 200 affirmative things that have happened, which should preclude anybody who cares for this country, anybody who says they love America, anybody who thinks that the country should come before the party should read this list. 200 reasons not to vote for him. And the first one, he attacked his own country. Okay? He literally called a mob to fight like hell, or you won't have a country anymore. And during the fight, he sat there and did nothing to stop the violence. Literally watched it on TV. And it was a complete dereliction of duty if it is to be believed that he did not intend for them to do violence that day. If he's to be believed that he, because he gave a little disclaimer in there where he said, try to be peaceful or whatever, after this raucous speech about you have to fight like hell or you're not going to have a country anymore. And I hope Mike Pence does the right thing. I hope he does, So that's reason number one. Then there are 199 other reasons. One of them, I don't even know if it's on this list because, I made it like through 9, 10, 11, 12 pages of this, okay? And they're all good reasons. They're all valid reasons. They're all serious reasons. Like, he grabs women inappropriately, like by the, and brags about it. That is disqualifying. That he's a felon. This is my reason. He's a felon. He can't even join the military, but he could be commander-in-chief in this here country. I mean, it's so bizarre. It's so crazy what's going on here. That he bankrupted farmers in a fake faux trade war with China. I mean, just like a million reasons. But, now up at the top of the list is everyone who ever worked for him says he is fascist to the core. Okay, I don't think that's on this list. It could be. It could be on page 25. This list goes on and on and on and on. Remember, this is a guy who told 30,000 lies. 30,000 documented lies. And people are like, I don't care. I don't know how much THC has been in their lives along the way or alcohol content or I don't know what's rotted people's brains in this here country. I don't know if it's, your standard propaganda effect. I don't know if this is like why, he's deploying propaganda against the American people, because he saw it work in many countries prior, in times gone by. And Elon Musk, oh my God, Elon Musk is a propaganda meister. Okay, that's what he is. And we just had the Department of Justice had to warn Elon Musk, not about the thing that is most offensive about him, which is, that doughy white belly of his that is exposed every time he's up on stage with Donald Trump, jumping up and down like a weird rabbit. I don't even know what his deal is, okay? Or that he's got, 11 kids by 5 baby mamas. Donald Trump's got 5 kids by 3 baby mamas. And they're sitting there last night talking at a Christian nationalist, white Christian nationalist, by the way, rally, saying that we on the opposite side of Donald Trump, anybody who's against Donald Trump, we represent everything God hates. Are you freaking kidding me? So anyway, the DOJ did not warn him about his doughy belly. No. And for me, that's the most offensive part of Elon Musk. That and the, whole thing that he did with the, X and turned it into a sewer. And that he spreads lies on that thing all day, every day. And that his algorithm doesn't show me what I want. His algorithm shows me what he wants me to see. That's the dangerous thing about it, okay? But the Department of Justice warned him about paying people to register to vote, to say you could win $1 million. Every day he'll give away $1 million to a registered voter in a swing state, which is, dangling incentives for people who normally don't register to vote or vote in a swing state to register. And they're warning him that is, you're walking it right up to the questionable law-breaking line there, Elon. So you might notice, like today, he's not giving away $1 million. You might notice that. You might notice going forward, he's not going to give $1 million away. But, it's just the reason why I don't get like all my panties in a bunch about that is because people with money give $50 million to Kamala Harris. So I don't want to be like some sort of a hypocrite just because he's a doughy asshat, which he is, and say, oh, he's bribing people. You know what? I think if I gave $50 million to anybody, they would have a special place in their heart and mind about anything I felt or said after that. So that's what the money's for, okay? Actually, the money is to buy ads, but that's what $50 million will get you. Okay, there's no question about it. So it's pretty damn disgusting. But here you have a patently insane man, a man who is arrogant, who's mean. Cruelty is the point of almost everything he says and does, going in front of a white nationalist audience last night and saying out loud, this just gagged me, that the people who are here legally, living and working hard in Springfield, Ohio, and making Ohio great again, they are Haitians that have migrated here and are here under temporary protected status. Now, you may not like that there's temporary protected status in our law, but there is. And so they're here legally. That's just a fact. And Donald Trump told this white nationalist audience last night, they have to go. They have to go. They're ruining Ohio. They're ruining Springfield. And you know exactly what kind of racist crap he was, spreading there.
They're eating the pets.
That kind of stuff, okay, about those same people. It's fascist. It's ugly.
Clear for takeoff. Randi Rhodes.
This is Stephanie Miller, and here's what you missed.
This isn't even real anymore. I mean,
it's really bad writing.
Some sort of mass psychological experiment to see if someone that does and says the things that he does could possibly be elected president.
The most dangerous person ever is what Mark Milley said.
I mean, Bob, generals, people that worked with him, the guy that wrote the Goldwater rules, I was just talking about going, forget that now. He's crazy. Oh, my God. Right? I mean, he clearly is, I don't even know what the term is, but obviously dementia has been mentioned by people that know a lot better than I do, including all of these doctors and psychiatrists, right?
Oh, yeah. The other day he was doing a town hall where he was talking about, presumably, energy. Yes. And he ended up in this stumbly, incoherent thing about liquid, and it sounded like that kid who's confused. It's like a meme going around. You eat, you want, you gonna, you do the thing, and it was exactly like that. And then yesterday he was talking about the tube.
The kid in the Al Sharpton commercial that's explaining what happened to the blueberry pie.
That's right.
You want.
I
although
mean,
that kid was more articulate.
But
that made more sense.
You know, we joke because, we're comedians, but disinhibition for any of us who've had parents that, had dementia and Alzheimer's, this is like, I keep joking like, oh, how close are we to the N-word? Pretty close yesterday. Calling Kamala Harris, lazy as hell and a bunch of other racist tropes. I mean, the news coming out that he said, it doesn't cost $60,000 to bury a Mexican. I mean, this is...
that's going to gain him votes. He'll get more votes because of that. That's how toxic and disgusting this country is, or a certain segment of this country.
Hear all this and more on the next Stephanie Miller Show.
Vladimir Putin is a dictator, a war criminal, a murderer responsible for slaughtering thousands of Ukrainian civilians and causing death and destruction around the world. He's silenced dissent in his country, erased people from history, poisoned journalists, and imprisoned opponents. Every American president from Harry Truman to Barack Obama and Joe Biden have stood up against Soviet and Russian dictators. Every American president except one.
I think Putin's been a very strong leader for Russia. I think in terms of leadership, he's getting an A.
As president, Donald Trump shared our vital security secrets with Russia. Even after leaving office, Trump, sitting in Mar-a-Lago with stolen American intelligence files, had long, secret calls with Putin. What are they talking about? What is he giving Putin? What secrets has he shared? What has he promised the Russian dictator?
Do you have a relationship with Vladimir Putin, a conversational relationship?
I do have a relationship.
Trump puts Russia first, not America. He's not just wrong, he's dangerous. Donald Trump won't stand up to Vladimir Putin, so it's up to all of us to stand up to Donald Trump.
A lot of working stiffs today say the system is rigged to keep them from getting ahead. One thing that might make them feel like that is this: the system is rigged against them. Consider some very hard workers busting their butts going up and down our residential streets. Amazon's army of delivery drivers hauling tons of packages right to our doorsteps. Their exhausting, corporate-mandated hustle is a key source of Amazon's enormous profits, making Amazon...
Call in, connect. To speak to Randi, call 561-270-3844. 561-270-3844.
Look at Springfield, Ohio. Beautiful Ohio. I love Ohio. I love Ohio. Look at Springfield, Ohio. A town, small city, but a town of 50,000 people. They've implanted 32,000 illegal migrants into the town.
Legal.
Nobody could survive that.
Nobody could survive
They have to leave. They have to leave. I'm sorry. Nobody can survive that. A 50,000 person town, quickly 32,000 illegal migrants. They call them legal because they had a little trick, but it's illegal. I will rescue every town, and every town is petrified, even if they don't have them, because they know they're coming. They're heading for the towns. They're heading for the towns. Who could do this to our country? Who could do this?
Our country is a nation of immigrants, number one. Number two, what is he talking about? The people in Springfield are happy about the people in Springfield. Okay, I don't. This is exactly, we had this immigration border bill, okay, and he told the Republicans in the Senate not to fix the border, not to secure the border, even though the border is pretty secure right now, okay? It is. But he told them not to do it by legislation. If Biden wanted to do it by executive order, Biden could do it, and he did. But Biden was waiting for them to hand him the bill. He would have signed the bill. Kamala will sign the bill, right? It was negotiated by one of the most conservative members of the United States Senate. And you know what's crazy about this? When you talk to people like on the voting line and you ask them, like yesterday, the guy from Texas, I was talking about Ted Cruz. He didn't know who Ted Cruz was. The man is from freaking Texas and had the nerve to tell me, I know a lot about politics. And I said, well, what's wrong with Ted Cruz? Why does he go to Cancun when your grid, which is in crazy bad shape, falls apart in the middle of a snowstorm? And he said, who's Ted Cruz? Dude, I swear. That's what he said. Who's Ted Cruz? The guy that said he knew a lot about politics. So trust me, very few people know who James Lankford is, the very conservative senator from Oklahoma. I bet you there are a whole bunch of people in Oklahoma that don't know who James Lankford is, which is just crazy bad. But anyway, the border bill was negotiated by him, and he's one of the most conservative. Kirsten Sinema from Arizona, who's going to go be a lobbyist now. Good luck. Go with God. And, what's his name? Chris Murphy from Connecticut. Okay? And they don't even know that happened, let alone that Donald Trump called the Republican Senate and said, don't pass this piece of legislation. I'd rather run on the problem. I need the problem. I gotta talk about people invading. I need to talk about they're Haitian, and that they did not get implanted into Springfield. They migrated to Springfield because Springfield, Ohio, advertised for people who wanted to work in a manufacturing plant. People who could run forklifts, people who could do quality control, right? And the people that were living in Florida, Haitian people, said, we can do that job. We can do this job. And they went to Ohio to check it out, and they liked it. And the guy that was advertising for these jobs to be filled hired about 100 of them, hired about 100 people. And things started to go really well in Springfield, meaning there were new people with new jobs who had new money, and they were buying things. And Main Street started doing really well. And so other Haitians said, oh, they have a Main Street? I'll open up a Creole restaurant because we have Haitian people there that like Creole food. And they did that. And it happened gradually over the years. So, listen, he's a degenerate liar, and he's a hater, and he's a racist, obviously. This goes right along with, Mexicans are rapists and murderers, which obviously, immigrants in this country are so much less likely to do crime than naturalized American citizens or American citizens born here. That's a fact. You can go look that up. Go to the Department of Justice and just go check. Go check the crime stats. By the way, crime is way down in this country. So for people who are screaming that the border is wide open, which it is not, but that the border was wide open for a period of time, which it was in between the ending of COVID and Title 42 being rescinded, Title 42 being a health pandemic emergency act that actually allowed for the border to be shut down. And, then we got out of COVID, and in between getting out of COVID and the executive order by Biden that says you can't even claim asylum now, which can be overturned, by the way, by Donald Trump. And I believe he will overturn it because he needs the issue. He needs to be able to point at people and say they're the cause of all your problems. But when that happened, crime actually went down. Isn't that amazing? It really did. Crime has plummeted. Violent crime, especially in this country, has plummeted. But, I can't believe he went to this thing. You want to hear... This, for me, is the creepiest sounding Trump has ever sounded. This little clip here, I think it's like 8 seconds. It's really, really short. And the reason why I wanted it today is because when I listened to it, it made the hair on the back of my neck stand up. I mean, really, it gave me the ooty gots. I don't know if you have this. I have this way where I hate bugs. I hate cockroaches. And I live in Florida. I've lived in Louisiana. I've lived in Alabama. They have palmetto bugs. They fly. I mean, it's just amazing. I was the idiot girl from, New York who rented a cottage. Yep, that was underneath a palmetto tree, not knowing what a palmetto bug is or where it lived. And so I used to walk around my little one-bedroom cottage with an entire roll of Reynolds wrap, heavy duty, so I could smash it. Oh, it was just gross. And then that freaking thing would fly around. So when I see a bug like that, I get something called the ooty gots. It's like when your stomach flips. This gave me that. It was just so super creepy.
Very importantly, and you saw that the other day, she lied about working at McDonald's. She'd never worked there. She's a liar.
She's a liar. Sounds like Christopher Walken in a really strange movie. Nothing against Walken, he's brilliant, but I mean, the creepiness of him knows no bounds. There is no bright line or there's no level to which he will not sink. There is no limit to how creepy he will let himself get. Now she never worked at McDonald's. I mean, that's his issue. Let me just tell you about that woman that asked Kamala Harris about her economic plan and didn't know enough about it and didn't care enough to Google KamalaHarris.com and look at her economic plan, which is posted there. 23 Nobel laureates now. Okay, in June it was 15. Add 7 more. 7 more economics Nobel laureate prize winners, Nobel Prize winners, endorsed Kamala Harris's plan as being extremely better than Donald Trump's.
Clear for takeoff. Randi Rhodes. Randi Rhodes. Randi Rhodes. RandiRhodes.com.
Are you a conservative voter thinking about who to vote for? Consider this. President Bush is not voting for Donald Trump. Vice President Mike Pence is not voting for Donald Trump. Mitt Romney is not voting for Donald Trump. Liz Cheney is not voting for Donald Trump. Vice President Dick Cheney is not voting for Donald Trump. President Bush's Attorney General Alberto Gonzales is not voting for Donald Trump. Trump's own Chief of Staff, General John Kelly, is not voting for Donald Trump. It's a long list of conservatives who know Donald Trump is unfit to be president. It's not about right or left, Democrat or Republican. This is a different election. Donald Trump is not a conservative. Senator Lindsey Graham predicted that if Donald Trump won, it would destroy conservatism. He was right. Country over party. Join the leaders you respect. Take a stand. America or Trump.
My head feels like it's exploding.
Doctor, this is the 3rd ER visit, now severe preeclampsia.
But is she dying? She's not dying yet. We give her an abortion, we all go to jail.
The baby isn't viable. She knows.
My precious baby girl. My stomach.
Blood pressure is rising.
She's not dying yet. She's still not dying.
Please help me.
What are we doing here?
Please help me. Please help.
She's hemorrhaging. Possible abruption.
Calling a cold blood bank.
Mommy, please take care of me, Lucas.
I can't get a blood pressure.
Calling a crash C-section. Let's start CPR on the moment.
You're in trouble, Donald. In the courts, in the streets, in your own party. But there's one big problem you never saw coming. Turn around. He's right behind you. It's JD. His billionaire friends mock you. Why do you think they forced JD Vance on you? Age is getting to you, Donald, and you're just too slow to see the plan. If you win, JD will come for you. You won't see him until it's too late. He won't wait until you make a mistake. JD's plot to invoke the 25th Amendment is already underway. Your cabinet betrayed you before. Why would it be different now? And with Democrats in the majority, no one will stop him. Republicans want someone younger, smarter, someone stable. A leader who will execute Project 2025 without your problems. Rupert's Wall Street Journal said Vance's version of Trump is better than the real thing. JD switched from never Trump hater to your running mate in record time. You thought that was real? You think he won't stab you in the back to seize 10 years of power in the White House? So yes, Donald, they really are out to get you, and the one who'll betray your presidency is right by your side.
Have you seen this ad? Donald Trump is spending millions attacking Kamala Harris on a desperate lie. Taxpayer-funded sex changes for prisoners and illegal aliens is a Trump administration policy. He's attacking Kamala Harris for his own record, and he thinks you're too dumb to get it. He's gaslighting America because Trump is for he, him. Kamala is for us.
Forget the cartoonish great man version of American history. Nearly all social progress in our country has been spurred by unheralded nobodies who felt a sting of injustice and resolved to right the wrong. Lilly Ledbetter, who recently died at 86, was one such trailblazing rebel, and it's worth remembering her gutsy stand for paycheck fairness. After 20 years as a supervisor at Goodyear Tire in Gadsden, Alabama, Ledbetter was stunned in 1998 to learn that she had routinely been paid about 40%.
Don't give up. Don't give up. What's true?
This is the Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
Did I mention the number was 561-270-3844? I think I did. The only reason why I'm mentioning it is because I thought I had a whole full board of calls, but it turned out that they were all cowards. Every single one of you hung up.
Listen.
Every
MAGA,
single one of you freaks hung up.
Or Republicans, MAGA, whoever you are, if you're watching the show and you're getting angry and Randy's a liar and you call in, just stay and we'll put you on.
Just stay. I'll
Just
talk to you.
Don't
I will talk to you.
Yeah.
So let me do what I think. Brett just told me was the topic du jour for the people. So the first woman I saw was from North Carolina, and she wanted to know. She said Democrats are just as bad as Donald Trump. Nobody is as bad as Donald Trump. But she said the Democrats are just as bad. What did Donald Trump do? Right? That was her question. So Donald Trump says there's an enemy within, and he would like to use the National Guard or the military to kill them or to round them up or to put them in internment camps. Donald Trump wants a mass deportation. Do you have any idea what that would look like? Do you have any idea what that would cost? Do you have any idea that your local sheriff, your local police officers would be going door to door asking people for their papers? Do you have any idea what that would be? And do you have any idea what that would do to our economy? Any idea at all? No. But what did Donald Trump do? Well, for starters, he took away our right to be autonomous in our own bodies, in our own person. Okay? He is literally letting women get so close to death. Some of them actually do die. Some of them do. In service to a thing that he says in a lie that everybody wanted to have happen. They wanted Roe v. Wade to go back to the state. Nobody wanted that. Nobody wanted that. Okay, 50 years, nobody wanted that. I don't even. He invited the Taliban. Yes, that Taliban to Camp David and negotiated with them the end to the Afghanistan war and pulled out every single person from Afghanistan except for 2,500 and then handed it off to Biden and said, Up to you. Do what you want. And Biden had a choice. He could either redeploy the people Donald Trump took out in a deal he made with the devil, the Taliban, or he could just say, okay, we're gonna get people out. He got people out. He ended a 20-year war. Biden did. And for that, you call him some sort of a murderer. It's unbelievable because 13 died. Donald Trump used Arlington National Cemetery as a political photo op and got into a fisticuffs with a person that works as a volunteer at Arlington National because they knew he was using it as a photo op, and you can't do that. We have laws. He calls people who are against him vermin to dehumanize them, to make them, into animals, critters, creatures, so it's easier for you to disrespect, let alone snuff them out. He helped the Saudis cover up the murder of Jamal Khashoggi, who was a Washington Post columnist. The Saudis literally took this man and chopped him into pieces. And they said it was fine. It was okay. So that Jared Kushner could get a $2 billion payday from Prince bin Sultan Salman. He thinks windmills cause cancer. He says washing machines don't wash anything. That water doesn't come out of his faucet. That his toilets don't flush. Okay? He used a Sharpie to doctor a hurricane map because he didn't want to be wrong when he predicted a hurricane Dorian was going to go into Alabama. And it didn't because nobody thought it would. But rather than be wrong about a hurricane hitting Alabama, he used a Sharpie to doctor an official weather map. He lies and says Democrats want your churches shut down permanently. He said Mexico would pay for his wall, and you all fell for it. You all believed him. Now, my thing is, if people are still getting into this country, are they climbing over his fabulous wall that Mexico paid for and built? I don't even understand how you can be fooled over and over again by this guy. He was pissed off at Denmark because they wouldn't sell him Greenland. Swear to God. He said he would date his daughter. He told Howard Stern that she was a nice piece of ass. Howard Stern commented on Donald Trump's daughter's rack, and Donald Trump engaged about how he would like to, do that. He went into the Miss Teen USA dressing room and looked at 14 and 15-year-olds naked and said, when you own the pageant, you can do that. He said COVID would go away by Easter when the heat comes. He told you to put lightsabers up your bum. He said you should drink disinfectant. He blew it. 1.2 million Americans died on his watch. And you know what? A good chunk of them were called excessive deaths. Do you understand that the United States has 4% of the world's population, and yet we had 20% of the world's COVID deaths? You understand that? But Democrats are just as bad. Are you freaking living in an alternative universe somewhere? You have corrupt Democrats. They usually go to jail. I think we just saw Bob Menendez get convicted, for the second time. Nobody's defending Bob Menendez on my in my camp. No one. But you'll defend this guy until he literally is installed as the next dictator of the world, and you realize what you've done, and you can't get rid of him. And you'll call me and you'll say, oh my God, how do we get rid of him, Rand? How? And I'll be the one to tell you you can't. He wants to use the National Guard against American citizens with whom he disagrees. He asked General Milley, why can't he just shoot protesters in Lafayette Square Park? Why can't he just shoot them in the leg? Why can't he just do that? He had to pay $2 million in a lawsuit for running a fraudulent charity. And the cherry on the cake of my day, he's a felon. Been convicted by a jury. 2 juries, actually. One for a civil rape charge, okay? E. Jean Carroll charged him with rape. Jury brought him in guilty. Sexual assault, rape, same thing. Judge said you could say that. Judge said. And then the, fraud case for the Trump organization. They had to take away his business license. I mean, what is wrong with people in this country? Really, what is wrong? What Kool-Aid are you drinking? Then, okay, so that was the first call. Then the second guy, I think, was from Georgia, right? Brett said you sounded very slow. So I'm going to chalk that up to your southern drawl that, people from the north kind of think means you're slow. I won't associate those two things, okay? But he said that you were complaining that Biden let in to the country, as if he was, the welcome wagon lady and giving out baskets, welcome to the neighborhood, 13,000 murderers and that they're killing babies. Did you really say that? Do you really think that?
I just want to defend myself real quick. I don't think all Southern accents are slow.
Just him?
He had a Southern accent, and he was talking
And he was slow.
And he was talking very slow and having a hard time communicating.
All right.
So to all our Southern watchers and listeners, hi, I respect you. Thank you.
So 13,000 murderers and whatever you want to rape. They are in prison. Do you understand any of this? Okay, so the lay of the land is this. The 13,000 did not come in on Biden's watch. Okay, that's over decades and decades of people sneaking into this country. So one of the Republican House members, Tony Gonzalez, wrote a letter to ICE, okay, to Patrick Lecklider. I don't know if I'm saying his name right. I don't really care. And asked him how many over the decades murderers and criminals have come in through the southern border over the decades. And he said there were 13,000 that weren't in ICE custody anymore. People like the guy that called have interpreted that to mean that they're just roaming freely about this country. And then they add the fantastical I don't know what to call it. It's the fantastical lie that they're out there marauding, that they're out there killing people, raping. 99.9% of these 13,000 that came in over the decades are in prison. They're not roaming freely. And so, therefore, your fantastical lie that you're telling yourself about they're raping and murdering babies, of all things, is made up bullcrap. It's not true. It's a lie. A man who told 30,000 lies shouldn't be trusted with filling your mind up with what you want to talk to me about because you think it's true. He's a lying sack of crap who needed this problem, wanted this problem. Now, Tony Gonzalez wrote to ICE to say, there were 13,000, right? And they're not in your custody, correct? He goes, no, they're not in my custody. ICE doesn't have these people. No, because they're in the prison system. That's where rapists are. That's where murderers are. They're in prison. It's called the non-detained docket that ICE keeps, meaning they know that there were 13,000 criminals that came in over the decades, many, many decades. They didn't come in on Biden's watch. Some of them came in on Trump's watch. Blasphemy! Yes, they probably crawled over his awesome wall that never got built. But okay. Holy crap, man. You gotta come out of your bubble. You gotta come out, wherever you are. Come to reality, just for a brief moment. It's gonna be a little uncomfortable, but you can nestle in my armpit. I will hold you.
Clear for takeoff.
911, what's your emergency?
America's healthcare system is broken and people are dying.
Welcome to Code Whack, where we shine a light on America's callous healthcare system, how it hurts us, and what we can do about it. I'm your host, Brenda Gazar. This time on Code Whack, who is Dr. Ceci Aquino, and how has her experience as an immigrant informed the work she's doing with the Latino Coalition for a Healthy California? What's the organization's mission, and what role did it play during the devastating COVID pandemic? To find out, we interviewed Dr. Aquino, Executive Director of the Latino Coalition for a Healthy California.
When you make a policy choice to keep certain communities underfunded and lacking the resources that they need to have full lives, you are are, of course, going to see less than desired health outcomes. Latinos were not faring well. And so when we add to that a global pandemic and we have a very acute case where, the public health community was trying to figure out what to do. And we had those months where we didn't have answers and we didn't have a vaccine. And we had to very transparently have very hard conversations with our community members across California who were asking us, what do I do? How do I get some support? People were fearful. We were also coming off a Trump presidency. There had been a chilling effect that, had led many community members to disenroll from life-saving care.
Get the full Code Wax story on ProgressiveVoices.com and on the PV app. Catch all our episodes by subscribing to Code WAC wherever you find your podcasts. This podcast is powered by Heal California, a nonprofit that uplifts the voices of those fighting for healthcare reform around the country. Until next time, stay healthy.
Now, the top of the hour on the Progressive Voices channel on TuneIn presents the Green News Report.
Some in the tri-state area are calling this month Dry-tober. Cities like New York and Philadelphia could see their first October on record with zero rainfall.
Record heat and drought fuel wildfires in the Northeast. U.S. Senate majority and the future of climate action hang in the balance of this year's election. Plus,
we are deploying clean energy.
Biden administration racing the clock to allocate climate and infrastructure funding.
All that clock racing and more straight ahead from BradBlog.com. I'm Brad Friedman.
And I'm Desi Doyen.
Stand by for 6 minutes of independent green news, politics, analysis, and snarky comment.
They want to do things like no windows in buildings. They have some wonderful plans for this country.
Oh, no, you're confused, sir. They were talking about your jail cell. This is your Green News Report. Okay, Desi Doyen. So they are still fighting the flooding from Hurricane Milton down in Florida?
It's crazy, but yes, parts of Central Florida are still grappling with persistent flooding from devastating Hurricane Milton 2 weeks after landfall.
Really?
It's another reminder that hurricane impacts remain a threat long after the storm. The state health department confirms that after Hurricanes Helene and Milton, several counties in Florida are now seeing a surge in infections of Vibrio fulnificus.
Yikes.
A flesh-eating bacteria that thrives in warm coastal waters and flood waters.
Double yikes.
An unusually hot October across the U.S. now. 85% of the lower 48 is seeing above average temperatures. In the Northeast, there's been virtually no rainfall in some states in October, and drought and record high temperatures are fueling an outbreak of wildfires.
In the Northeast?
Yes, numerous studies show that man-made climate change is increasing the frequency, size, and intensity of wildfires everywhere. New Jersey Fire Service Chief Greg McLaughlin on NBC News confirms that fire season there has changed.
Fire seasons are not seasonal anymore, and they've actually become year-round.
So it's interesting that that's the case in both the Northeast and out here in the West. Fire season all year round.
Yes, that's the world of climate change. In politics, in the critical November election, control of the U.S. Senate and the future of U.S. climate and industrial policy hang in the balance.
Oh, that's all?
In a recent debate in Michigan's U.S. Senate race, former Republican Representative Mike Rogers said he would repeal President Biden's landmark climate law, the Inflation Reduction Act, and block federal incentives that help Michigan automakers transition to electric vehicles. And he called for repealing tailpipe pollution and emissions standards. Democratic Senate candidate Representative Alyssa Slotkin said those incentives are critical to maintaining U.S. global competitiveness.
If the fundamental question is who do we want to make that next generation of vehicles, you better believe I want that to be Michigan and not China. Right now, everyone knows China is eating our lunch on these kind of vehicles.
I should also note that the Republican candidate Mike Rogers called for an end to Joe Biden's EV mandate.
But there is no EV mandate.
What?
In Florida's U.S. Senate race, incumbent Republican Senator Rick Scott refuses to even acknowledge climate change, even in the wake of multiple destructive hurricanes. And as governor, he once banned the words climate change from state agencies. Whereas former Democratic House Representative Debbie Mercoselle-Powell supports climate action and funding resilient infrastructure.
Does Rick Scott not remember the 2 hurricanes that hit his state just about 2 weeks ago?
Apparently not. Meanwhile, the Biden administration is pushing forward with innovation and racing to deploy climate and infrastructure funding. The Interior Department this week approved a massive advanced geothermal energy project in Utah, a significant milestone for a zero-carbon technology that provides clean 24/7 baseload energy on par with nuclear power plants.
Cool.
Minus the uranium mining and radioactive nuclear waste.
Even cooler.
The Department of Energy approved a $52 million grant to convert a closed coal plant in a rural community in Utah into a factory that will use mine waste to make next-generation low-carbon concrete to decarbonize cement, one of the most carbon-intensive materials in the world.
Wow.
And finally, the Department of Energy also funded the first ever tribal microgrid project with long-duration battery storage in Southern California, which will also support the largest single EV charging hub in North America.
This is all pretty cool and could all come to a crashing halt depending on how people vote on November 5. For much more on all of these stories and the ones we couldn't get to today, check out our website at greennews.bradblog.com. Don't forget you can download our reports anytime via Pandora, TuneIn, Apple, or Amazon Podcasts. Find, follow, and share us planet-wide on the Facebooks, Mastodons, and sites still known as Twitter at Green News Report. I'm Brad Friedman.
Mary had a little man.
We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon.
I have a dream today.
Change has come to America.
Believe me.
Help is on the way.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show.
Turn up your mind.
You've quoted General Milley calling Donald Trump a fascist. You yourself have not used that word to describe him. Let me ask you tonight, do you think Donald Trump is a fascist?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. And I also believe that the people who know him best on this subject should be trusted. Again, look at their careers. These are not people, with the exception, I think, of only Mike Pence. These were not politicians. These are career people who have served in the highest roles in national security, who have served as generals in our military, who are highly respected. Talking about the person who would be commander-in-chief, not to mention what we know and what they've told us about how he talks about the military, servicemen and women, referring to them as suckers and losers.
I've never heard a Democrat refer to military or Gold Star parents as being suckers and losers. I've never heard a Democrat denigrate, a Gold Star family like Kaiser Khan, who spoke at the Democratic National Convention back in 2015 for the 2016 election. I've never heard a Democrat say that an Indiana judge can't be impartial because his father immigrated from Mexico on a case that had nothing to do with immigration but was simply a fraud case because Donald Trump was running a fraudulent charity, a fraudulent university, and a fraudulent business. I mean, where do you get off saying Democrats are as bad or are similar or are, I don't know, as flawed, whatever word you can accept about this fascist? I don't know, North Carolina. I don't know. 30,000 lies, and a birther on top of it saying that Barack Obama's birth certificate is fake. You have very short memories out there. Very, very short. I am not aware of any Democratic president that ever challenged any of their opponents by saying that they weren't born here. or that a judge could not sit and hear a case because of his ancestry. I mean, it's just, I've never heard a Democratic president in 70 years try to get us out of NATO. You? No, never, never heard a Democratic president exploit the death, the murder of a New York City jogger by 5 guys who were shown by DNA to not have done it. But Donald Trump threw in with the idea that they did like 30 years ago. And to this day will say they deserve the death penalty, even though they've been completely exonerated by virtue of DNA evidence. Couldn't have been them. He doesn't care. He still wants them to die because they make him look bad. Yes, I know of a lot of Democrats that say crap like that. The escalator, the Golden Escalator Day. Everybody remember Golden Escalator? He paid people to be there. Those were actors. You understand that? His rallies are in like tiny little venues and they're only half full, and he lies and says there are hundreds of thousands of people waiting outside to get in, but they couldn't get in. They couldn't get in. There's maybe like a handful of people there. I don't know who remembers this one, but this one I didn't remember. Mark Jacobs wrote this one. He said in a bizarre speech to a Boy Scout jamboree. Does everybody remember this? Because it jogged my memory, but this was really disgusting behavior, but I don't know who remembers it, but Mark Jacobs does. He said in a bizarre speech to a Boy Scout jamboree, Trump described a cocktail party for the hottest people in New York. This is in front of a bunch of, prepubescent Boy Scouts, okay? He later claimed that the group's leader called to tell him that that was the greatest speech ever made to the Boy Scout jamboree. The press reached out to the Boy Scout leader, and he said he never called Donald Trump and that it was a really freaky speech. Okay. I don't know how. He said he helped, on 9/11. There's no evidence that he was ever down there. Hillary was. And this is why he made up a story that he was down there, too, helping, because she was down there helping. She was right next to Rudy Giuliani. And I know everybody, forgets that. Look what he did to Rudy Giuliani. I know Democrats do that all the time to their friends. They turn their lives into, complete crap and make them, declare bankruptcy because, they lied about innocent people who did nothing but show up to count ballots that day. Oh, and speaking of counting ballots, I have to tell you, be prepared for this. Donald Trump is going, okay, how do I put this? It's going to take a while to know who the winner is. Why? Well, for example, Arizona, okay? Maricopa County in Arizona, biggest county in Arizona, it's Phoenix. They're going to have to hand count the ballots, not tabulate them, but hand count the number of them and make sure that the number of them coincides with the poll books. And it will, because there is no fraud in this here country, okay? We get like maybe 5 people who erroneously vote. That's what we get in this country, okay? Elections are kind of cool and they're kind of, amazing. And they're run by volunteers, and they always turn out the right way, the way that they're supposed to, the way that the people voted. Whether I like the results or not, they're always accurate. Okay, so Maricopa County has this new rule that says that they have to count the number of ballots and compare it to the number of voters, poll books, and then once that is okay, then they can begin to tabulate. And that's going to take a lot of time. It could actually take days, days to hand count millions. I think it'll be 2.5 million ballots, okay? And so I am very sure that Donald Trump's going to declare himself the winner in that space of time. I just know that's going to happen. And I know that because Donald Trump has said it out loud, and very few people catch it, but I've caught it. And I've caught it a number of times, okay? He said the other morning on Fox and Friends, they don't even need people to vote. He keeps on saying he doesn't need people to show up and vote because it's rigged, because he has lawyers, right?
We have lawyers at every poll booth. We have, in fact, my instruction, we don't need the vote.
We don't need the votes. Yes, he's a fascist. Do you know, he keeps repeating the Vladimir Putin line, and I don't know how many people understand that this is the Vladimir Putin line. Actually, it's a Stalin line. It's, Russian autocrats say crap like this. And what they say is, it doesn't matter who votes, it matters who counts the votes. Well, Donald Trump has taken to saying that. He says it all the time now. It's just that we're so siloed, meaning a lot of people who know Fox News is phony and know Fox News is propaganda. Brett Baer is supposed to be the journalist there, and he showed the stupidest clip to exonerate Donald Trump from saying something he clearly has said many, many, many times about the enemy within. And he said, we asked him, he was on Harris Faulkner show, and we asked him about that. And he said, that, it's all cool or whatever he said, and so people don't know what goes on over there. Conversely, people who watch that crap don't know what goes on in the newspapers. And the newspapers are the fact finders. I just have news for you. It's ABC, CBS, reliable, all good. CNN, a little opinion-y. MSNBC, a little more opinion-y, but still based on facts. The analysis might be a little biased, okay? Fox is total bullcrap. It just is. He has been on there, for those of you who don't watch that swell, saying over and over again that it doesn't matter who shows up to vote, it matters who counts the votes. And that he's got lawyers all over this country. You know he's going to declare victory, and we won't know who won yet.
Clear for takeoff. Randi Rhodes. Randi Rhodes. Randi Rhodes. RandiRhodes.com.
The Bob Cesca Show.
Bob Cesca. Can you imagine? Let's just stop for a second and think about what November could bring for all of us. Kamala Harris could win this election. Imagine how satisfying that's going to be to see Donald Trump lose again and to see Kamala Harris win.
Guys, let's not. In the car today, actually, before I got back to the house, did come on the show, and I was just thinking about the election night 2016 and the creeping horror.
Yeah.
And the, oh God. And I just...
Oh, no. When Russ Feingold lost in Wisconsin, I looked at the TV at Stephanie's house. I was like, we're done.
Yeah, it was a horrible, horrible night, and we don't want to repeat that again. And so
No.
I was in the middle of manifesting an awesome November here. I was in a happy place.
Go, Go, Bob, go.
So Donald Trump loses again. Kamala Harris wins, maybe even picking up Florida and states like that. Ohio, I think, is on the table. And then Donald Trump gets sentenced by Judge Merchan later in the month. Thanksgiving's in the mix there, too. Get a little bit of time off. Just imagine that. If you're feeling stressed out, just think about that. Manifest that. Make that happen. Let's just do
Bob.
whatever we have to do.
You need to walk outside, spin around, spit, no balloons.
Yeah, I'm bringing down the wrath of the whatever from high atop the thing. I know it. But you know what? I can't do this anymore. The stress is just killing me. I'm doom scrolling. I'm freaked out about maybe having to flee the country when they start arresting people. I would much rather focus on ways we can win, ways we can establish the stakes of this election, convince the last remaining undecided voters to make the right choice in all of this, and to just be positive and optimistic about things.
Bob Cesca.
It's the Bob Cesca Show. New episodes every Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, everywhere you get your podcasts, and at bobcescashow.com.
I'm Rick Smith, and this is Labor History in 2. On this day in labor history, the year was 1989. At 1:05 in the afternoon, a massive explosion rocked the town of Pasadena, Texas, near Houston. The explosion was so large it registered a 3.5 on the Richter scale. The disaster took place at the Phillips Petroleum Company's Houston Chemical Complex. The Pasadena facility produces plastics. The fire started when highly flammable gas was released from an improperly connected valve. 23 workers were killed. More than 300 more were injured. The Houston Chronicle described the devastating impact of the explosion, writing, "Entire buildings vanished as a huge black smoke plume billowed skyward in an almost apocalyptic vision. Homes as far as 8 miles away were damaged." After the explosion, the company rebuilt its facilities. A year after the disaster, Tom Gentry, president of the Oil, Chemical, and Atomic Workers Local 4-227, thought the company could do more to improve workplace safety. He told a Chronicle reporter, "The company still uses outside contractors with less safety training, and workers become tired because of bare-bones staffing." At the time of the explosion, there were 905 company workers and an additional 600 contracted employees who worked at the facilities. OSHA found multiple safety violations. The company eventually came to an agreement with OSHA and paid a $4 million fine. In 1999, another explosion killed 2 workers at the Pasadena facility. The next year, yet another explosion killed 1 worker and injured 71. The company continued to hire contracted employees. After the third explosion in 11 years, Joe Campbell, secretary-treasurer of the paper Allied Industrial, Chemical, and Energy Workers International, said the company continued to hire contractors who have little or no experience working in a volatile workplace.
I watched it on TV.
All things Randi at RandiRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Let's go.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
Donald Trump should be here tonight to talk with you and answer your questions. He's not. He refused to come.
Yep.
But understand that part of his plan is to put in place a national sales tax of at least 20% on everyday goods and necessities. And that, by economist estimates, independent economists, would cost you as the American consumer and taxpayer an additional $4,000 a year.
Yay! That's the price you pay for the autocrat. Yay! That sounds good. So this morning at sunrise, at the crack of dawn, whoever she is, thank you for another day. The Nobel Prize winning economists put out their letter. It's very short. Even people in Georgia could read it. No, I'm serious. It's really short. It's like 223 words, saying that Donald Trump fails the economic test. Kamala Harris's economic plan for the United States is vastly superior.
Nobel Prize-winning economists are backing Vice President Kamala Harris's vision for the economy, calling it vastly superior to the plans laid out by former President Donald Trump.
Wow.
23 U.S. recipients of the prestigious award have signed a letter serving as a stamp of approval for Harris's economic agenda. According to the group, the Vice President's agenda will improve the overall health of the economy, while Trump's policies will greatly increase tariffs, something he seems to be obsessed with.
He is obsessed with it because it's the only thing he knows how to say, and he figures you don't know anything about it, and so he loves the poorly educated and talks to them in that manner, where he bamboozles you. He literally, makes you believe that he knows what he's talking about, so you don't have to. But you do have to. You do have to know, because it's going to cost you. It's going to cost you a lot. So these Nobel Prize, 23 Nobel economists signed this letter saying that Kamala Harris's economic plan is vastly better, which brings me back to the lady that said to Kamala last night, well, I can't give you my vote yet because I need to know about the economics of it. I need to know the plans. I need to know which one's better. I need to know. I have to know. I can't cast my vote unless I know. A plan? There is a plan. It's on her website, plan. And the undersigned of this letter are 23 Nobel laureates in economics, and they are endorsing her plan. They say, I'll just read you two paragraphs, two little ones. While each of us has different views on the particulars of various economic policies, we believe that overall, Harris's economic agenda will improve our nation's health, investment, sustainability, resilience, employment opportunities, and fairness, and be vastly superior to the counterproductive economic agenda of Donald Trump. his policies, including high tariffs, even on goods from our friends and allies, and regressive tax cuts for corporations and individuals, will lead to higher prices, larger deficits, and greater inequality. Yeah, that's what we're going for, us here in the middle. Yeah, we want greater inequality. I mean, it's so bizarre. It's just so interesting. But they say among the most important determinants of economic success are the rule of law and economic and political certainty, and Donald Trump threatens all of these. Sounds great. Where do I vote for that? Where do I sign up for that? And here's a little detail for you. People in the silo that watch Fox News all day, every day, and it's like, poisoned your brain. The national debt increased under Donald Trump in one lousy stinking term, one 4-year term, by 39%. Look it up. You're a liar. Look it up. Math is math. Numbers are numbers. Okay? Either it is or it isn't. 39% increase in the national debt under Donald Trump in one term. It is. Look it up. Holy crap. So, the Wall Street Journal, yes, the right-wing Wall Street Journal also surveyed economists outside of these 23 Nobel laureates and found that the majority of those economists who did not win the Nobel Prize but are still Wall Street Journal valued economists all endorse Kamala Harris.
You saw the Nobel Prize announcement
right.
By the economists,
yes.
And it's indicative of what economists feel about it. So let me show you one other survey of economists, and then we'll get into the details of why economists feel as strongly as they do.
Okay.
So the Wall Street Journal surveyed 39 economists, and what they found was this. A lot of support for many of Harris's key plans, 74 support for her tax credit of $6,000 for new babies, 59 support for raising the corporate tax cut, 64% for capping insulin prices at $35 for everyone, and 46%, roughly 50-50, for capping out-of-pocket spending on prescription drugs. Less support for a couple of other things, but basically very strong support. Contrast that over here with Donald Trump, who got 8% support from economists for making his tax cuts permanent. Woohoo. Exactly zero support for his tariffs of 20%. And 5% support for eliminating taxes on Social Security benefits, and I'm going to come back to that in a second. So the dramatic contrast between support for Harris on the one side, no support basically for Trump on the other side, from 39 economists from across the board.
I don't know who to believe. 39 plus 23 is 52. There's more economists you will ever hear from for the rest of your life. Okay. And one side says Kamala and the other side zero Trump. I don't know what to believe. I'm so confused. I can't make myself vote for her. Then don't vote. Okay? Just take a pass. Just take a pass. I mean, it's really a stark contrast. There is no comparison. And when people say, but Democrats, there is no comparison. This man is a uniquely fascist wannabe dictator. Uniquely. In our lifetimes. And some of us are like way stinking old, okay? We've never seen this. We just never have. We've seen it over there. I mean, like my dad was over there and came back, like with frostbite and destroyed because he was blown out of a house and left in the snow for like 48 hours because he saw it over there. But we've never seen it over here. Except for now. Now you're seeing it over here. I'll tell you, there's another general. He's a major general. He was like vice chair of the National Guard. His name is Randi Manor, and he's General Manor is warning everybody about Donald Trump and the ease with which a president can mobilize the National Guard. He will lay it out for you on the other side of this break. He'll tell you all you need is like one complacent governor to say, here, you could use my National Guard. And Donald Trump is now commander-in-chief of that fighting force. And you don't even really need a complicit governor. You know, he can federalize anybody because he's the president.
Clear for takeoff. Randi Rhodes. Randi Rhodes. Randi Rhodes. RandiRhodes.com.
This is Stephanie Miller, and here's what you missed.
Do you know how we say things as a joke? He's like this close to just yelling the N-word. He's this close to just yelling the N-word. What if he called Kamala Harris yesterday lazy?
Oh,
lazy
yeah.
as hell.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
An old racist trope, of course. We still have 2 weeks to go. This is...
Week and a half.
Okay, does anyone have a betting pool on the N-word? Anybody?
Angela V. Shelton might.
Okay, he hurled a series of personal attacks at Vice President Harris, calling her lazy, repeatedly questioning her intelligence and stamina. This is, okay, so this is the gaslighting. What's the number past 11? Because
12.
He's the one that's canceled every single interview.
Right.
Won't debate.
Yeah.
Okay. She's done every interview known to man.
Yeah.
She's been having rally after rally. So...
And did a couple of interviews yesterday. That's why she didn't have a rally.
She is, I'm not sure if you're aware, she is vice president of the United States.
She has a job.
Of the United States of America.
Yeah. She has more of a job than Trump does.
She'd been going 14 consecutive days to political events. Yesterday, she was in meetings and recording interviews with Telemundo and NBC. So she didn't...
I know.
I can't even...
I know. It's difficult.
She didn't take a day off, but okay. He referred to her as slow, having a low IQ. Later in the day, he called her a stupid person and said, does she drink? Is she on drugs?
Wow.
Okay. Trump that very afternoon canceled a town hall with Bobby Kennedy and crazy Tulsi Gabbard, equally
Who's now a
crazy.
Republican.
Oh, right. Who's, look at me. What else can I do to get attention? Yes, she just turned Republican yesterday.
Shocker.
I thought this was some sort of bipartisan outpouring of support for Donald Trump. Oh,
Yeah.
Tulsi.
Hear all this and more on the next Stephanie Miller Show.
The story of being black in America is filled with never-ending chapters of challenge. Driving while black, banking while black, parenting while black. But what about voting while black? They always tell you this election will be different, and it rarely is. So many promises made. Promises of economic justice and social equity that never quite make it to your pocket or your porch. But this election, there really is only one choice. This time, she is the choice. Now I know you're thinking I've never voted for a woman and I'm not going to start now. Ask yourself, why not? And maybe you'll find it's not about her. It's about you. What you want for your family, for your future. Because if you vote for what you want, the choice becomes clear. It's Kamala. Listen to your gut. Your heart is telling you that Kamala Harris is the right person for the job. It's time for courage, for boldness. It's time to come together for change. It's time to be a man. Vote for a woman.
A lot of working stiffs today say the system is rigged to keep them from getting ahead. One thing that might make them feel like that is this.
Don't give up. Don't give up. What's true?
Call in, connect. To speak to Randi, call 561-270-3844. 561-270-3844.
All right, everybody. As promised, delivered. General Randy Manor right here.
While he's not in office, he cannot do anything to harm Americans directly. If he was to be the commander-in-chief again, everything changes. The Supreme Court has given him immunity. And the threshold for turning the National Guard into his personal police force is quite low. As long as he has a consenting governor, he can authorize the funds to pay them as the commander-in-chief, and he can use the National Guard almost in any way that he wants. And most Americans don't know how very easy it would be for an unhinged president to use the military against our own citizens. The president of the United States, he or she selects all the officers for promotion in our military. Congress, the Senate approves those nominations, but it's the president who does it. So under Project 2025, it is proposed that he's going to require the equivalent of a loyalty oath, or they call it an interview, of all 3- and 4-star generals. Well, you can imagine, it's only because we had people like Secretary of Defense Mark Esper and then the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, General Milley, with their strong personalities that served as a guardrail on the way to block the president from doing some quite, frankly, illegal and inappropriate actions while he was president.
Yeah, he wanted to shoot protesters. And he said, well, if we can't kill him, can't we just shoot him in the leg? And that's what prompted General Milley to come out and say, I should not have been there that day, and I regret being there at that photo op in Lafayette Square Park. And then they started to, retire and speak. And each and every single solitary uniformed military person who retired but was with Donald Trump in the White House. For instance, 4-star General Kelly, who lost his son in Iraq, lost his son in war. And when they went to look at his grave, this is when Donald Trump said, what was in it for him? Why would he do that? Donald Trump, who doesn't want amputated veterans in a veterans parade because it makes Donald Trump look bad. Donald Trump's generals, Milley, when Milley retired, do you remember his speech? It was really quite powerful, where he said that we do not serve an authoritarian, we do not serve a dictator, and we do not serve a wannabe dictator. We do not take an oath to a person, we take an oath to the Constitution. I mean, he was trying to tell you something then. Now, I do believe at this point, John Kelly, is a 4-star general, and John Kelly spoke on tape, and we got to hear him on tape when he was being interviewed for Bob Woodward's book, War. Okay, and this is the tape that we have of Kelly saying that, he's fascist. Okay, he meets all the criteria to be called a fascist. Milley called Donald Trump a fascist to the core. Okay, I really do think that General Milley and General Mattis and General Kelly and General Manor here, all of them, they have got to speak up and they have got to speak out before this election is in the bag. Almost everybody is voting early. You know the only state that doesn't have early voting? Guess everybody. No, it's not Mississippi. Alabama. Alabama does not have early voting on any day ever. So, okay, that's where the civil rights movement actually was birthed for voting rights, right? Selma, Alabama, Montgomery, Alabama, the bus boycott, all of it. And they don't have any early voting there. I mean, this is how stubborn some white Christian nationalists are about extending the franchise. It's very sad. It's very sick. But anyway, these generals have got to come and speak. They have to. Now, tonight, Kamala will be joined by Barack Obama and Bruce Springsteen, which is, look, she has 2 jobs right now, and you know what they are, right? One is policy, and to get out the policy and to tell people that her policy has been looked over, her policy has been picked over, her policy has been dissected, it has been examined, and it is far superior on every front, from the border security bill that she will sign. That is a bipartisan border security bill that gives us 50,000 more detention beds, that raises the threshold for even asking for asylum in this country, that actually includes applying for asylum in a third country before you even come here on the app. Yes, there's an app for that. All kinds of, very employing more border patrol agents, employing more border judges to hear the cases, to be able to detain people longer so that they're not released. Catch and release is what a lot of people object to. Well, these are issues that are real issues, and these are things that have real solutions. And she would sign, okay, and he will not. He will not solve the border problem because he loves it. He loves it. But she made this plea last night that just struck me as being so human and so real. Don't you just want to get things done already?
Let's get things done. And let's not be afraid of having a little joy. To the point of, what makes you feel good about your work. Let's do it in a way that is grounded in optimism. The thing that I think we all know about who we are as the American people, we are people who are ambitious. We have aspirations. We have dreams. We are inherently optimistic. Inherently optimistic. And I think people are exhausted with the idea that we're just going to be divided and angry, instead of working on the problems and working together. And that's what motivates me, and that's what makes me proud when we're able to do that.
She literally has two jobs now, okay? One is to, present to you for your consideration policies that you can look over or digest or understand in such a way that you decide that, yes, a growing economy and making the very, very, very wealthy pay their fair share so that 100 million Americans can get a tax cut. 100 million Americans can see an increase in their take-home pay. 100 million Americans have a chance at child care if they need it. 100 million Americans can have a chance at elder care if they need it because it would be covered in her plan under Medicare, which is exactly where it belongs, and that it's paid for because Medicare is now able to negotiate the price of prescription drugs with Big Pharma. And the savings that occurs from that negotiation goes back to you in the form of payments for your parents to have home health care visits so that they can shower, so that they can eat a breakfast, so that they can get dressed, maybe go for a walk, maybe go for a car ride. Yeah. I mean, the future's so bright, you gotta wear shades if you listen to the plan. And his is so dark and exhausting and so physically despicable, meaning we will have to run and hide. Journalists will, opposition people will, Jamie Raskin will, Kamala Harris will.
Clear for takeoff. Randi Rhodes. Randi Rhodes. Randi Rhodes. RandiRhodes.com.
All of this with the global warming and that, a lot of it's a hoax. It's a hoax. I mean, it's a money-making industry, okay?
Climate change is not science.
Unleash American energy. Drill, baby, drill.
We don't want to pray to the climate gods and confess our sins. No, thank you.
Even if you think that climate justice is real, or even if you can explain what it is, I've never met anyone who can. What does that have to do with science? That's not science, is it?
We want to keep our earth clean, and we want the most beautiful earth in the whole world. But do we want to destroy the oil and coal industry? No.
The former president had said climate change is a hoax. Every day brings another reminder, from wildfire smoke to extreme heat to floods. If we do nothing, it will be irreversible in terms of the harm. We can do this. We can build a more equitable future. It's within our power. Over the last 4 years, we have invested $1 trillion in a clean energy economy, while we have also increased domestic gas production to historic levels. We have created over 800,000 new manufacturing jobs while I have been vice president. We have invested in clean energy to the point that we are opening up factories around the world. Part of building a clean energy economy includes investing in American-made products to protect the people of our nation. Let us understand that we can match that desire with action, and that we must act now.
The race is close. The polls are razor thin. Republicans want Democrats to panic, to believe Trump can't be beaten. For everyone who remembers 2016, they're getting nervous. Well, get the hell over it. The polls are garbage. Trump is losing his mind and his campaign. Kamala Harris is winning, connecting with Americans, making the case for democracy, doing her part to help end this madness. There is no time to panic. No time to quit. It's time to fight. Vote early. Organize. Volunteer. Get out and show Trump you're not scared. Show him you're ready for the fight. Ignore the polls. Ignore the noise. We know what he'll do if he loses. Fake news. The question is, what will you do to make sure he does?
You've heard Donald Trump say he'll arrest and deport millions.
On day one, I will terminate every open border policy of the Biden administration, and we will begin the largest domestic deportation operation in American history.
But have you heard who else he wants to arrest? It might be you, if you've disagreed with the Supreme Court.
These people should be put in jail the way they talk about our judges and our justices.
The former president has ramped up his threats to jail political opponents if he wins the election.
I say, go down and indict them. They'd be out of the election.
Trump threatens anyone who holds him accountable with arrest and imprisonment. When a nut writes, Elizabeth Cheney is guilty of treason and calls for televised military tribunals, Trump sends it out to millions of his followers. How many times did he rant?
They should lock her up. Lock him up. Yeah, lock him up.
Donald Trump is a convicted felon awaiting trial for other felonies. He's an angry and desperate man who cares nothing about the Constitution or rule of law. It's not about Republican or Democrat. It's about protecting our country, our heritage, our future, America, or Trump.
Forget the cartoonish great man version of American history. Nearly all social progress in our country has been spurred by unheralded nobodies who felt a sting of injustice and resolved to right the wrong. Lilly Ledbetter, who recently died at 86, was one such trailblazing rebel, and it's worth remembering her gutsy stand for paycheck fairness. After 20 years as a supervisor at Goodyear Tire in Gadsden, Alabama, Ledbetter was stunned in 1998 to learn that she had routinely been paid about 40% less than men doing the same job, robbing her of some $200,000. She promptly sued.
Fatality. This is the Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
All righty. Ann in Tennessee.
Yeah, why are you against President Trump?
Sorry?
Are you against President Trump?
Yes. He's not
Shame
president.
Are you wanting a socialist government?
He's not president. He's a former president. He's not the president.
Well, why are you such against him? We are.
I think I read you a list, a whole list. But I'm sorry if I offended you.
No, you didn't. I never heard nothing about it.
So,
but anyway, I just turned you on, and that is terrible.
That's why. That's
you are going to Worse, you never voted Democrat.
Did he call people vermin? Did he compare people to
Ma'am, how many millions
rodents?
and thousands and millions
Did
and
he-
millions
did he
of
throw-
idiots
did
that
he
they let
throw-
in this stupid country?
No,
that is terrible.
Why are you yelling at me?
Shame on you.
Shame on you.
Shame on you.
you. Bless your heart. Bless your heart. That always works.
She was a really stimulating conversation. I got to be honest with you.
Okay, this is a guy who's lying. Okay, the 13,000 people that you keep on hearing regurgitated in your propaganda silo that you live in, where you only watch, like Newsmax or Fox or Right Side Broadcasting or whatever it is. Those 13,000 people who are criminals came into this country over the past 40 years. They are not in ICE custody because they are in prison. Do you understand that? That is the true story of the 13,000 thing that you are all being fed like just so much more bullcrap, just shoveled into you. And if you don't believe me, just Google it, okay? Or go to the Customs and Border Patrol.gov. Go look it up. Those 13,000 criminals came in over a period of 4 decades. 4 decades. And no, they're not in ICE custody because they're in prison. They did not come in under Joe Biden. Joe Biden did not let 13,000 murderers. I mean, that is insane. That is just crazy. It's almost as if he would have had to extend an invitation only to murderers. This idea that foreign countries are emptying their prisons, there is no evidence anywhere in the world that has happened, except one place. You ready, Ann? One place emptied their prisons. It was in a deal that was made with Donald Trump and the Taliban. Donald Trump invited the freaking terrorist group, the Taliban, to Camp David and made an agreement. It's called the Doha Agreement. And he actually allowed for the prisons in Afghanistan to be emptied of people who killed our soldiers, okay? And 5,000 prisoners were released in that deal. Donald Trump is the only president I have ever heard of emptying prisons of criminals. And that's why he thinks of it. Okay, because he did it. So you should be ashamed of yourself. You should be ashamed at the level of ignorance that you have and the level of your voice, the volume. Holy God, what is wrong with you? Don't have time to listen to the live show? Want to hear more on your schedule? Go to randyrhodes.com and buy a stinking podcast.